And today's topic is anticipation. It's the day after the polls were open for the election, and ballots are still being counted. And many of us are on the edges of our seats waiting to see what's going to happen with this election. And what we're going to talk about today is the fine line between anxiety and anticipation, and what it looks like, what the distinction is. But before we get started, let's just take a few minutes to get settled and be present. So let's just take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream and nourishing every cell and every organ of your body. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, roll your shoulders, jiggle around, and let's take another deep breath in. Hold it, and now imagine sparkling white light lighting up every molecule and every electron in your body, electrifying, energizing, and revitalizing you and every part of your being, and connecting you with the universe beyond. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms. Feel the tingling in your fingers and feel the tingling in your palms, and how delicious that can be. The simple pleasures, right? And let's just bring ourselves present right here, right now. And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, Dido and Natalie and Vanessa and everybody else who's here. Thank you so much for joining us. This is an interesting time we live in, right? And this is a very interesting moment. I was debating on whether to talk about transitional moments or anticipation, and I elected, uh, haha, elected to talk about anticipation. What's the difference between anxiety and anticipation? Natalie says, can you please help? I've been losing my memory on and off. So this is kind of a left turn from anticipation, but and also I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not a doctor. So, I can't give you a prescription, but I can say what I've had results with, because I had some memory issues. First of all, memory can be a function of sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, being able to get more rest might help. And my success with memory stuff, there are some medicinal mushrooms that are really good for brain function. One of them is called lion's mane. I've had good success with that. And there was some kind of other supplement. There are supplements around. Maybe you can talk to your doctor, or if you have a nutritionist, or you can do a search online to be looking for things that help with memory. But I know that rest helps, and actually it might seem really weird, but having a clean diet helps. If you get your gut biome healthy, then you'll find the likelihood is that you'll think more clearly. I'm noticing that I think a lot more clearly as I have cleaned up my diet. So I hope that helps, Natalie. And stress impacts memory. So it sounds like you've been under some stress. I think lots of us have, and that does impact memory. So maybe some more self-care things, relaxation and meditation could also potentially help you with your memory. I really had concerns about my memory at one point, and I did find a really good online supplement, and I don't know what it was that made a difference. I don't know what the name of it was at the moment, but it really helped. It was not cheap, but that and the mushrooms, the lion's mane tincture. You can find that stuff at hostdefense.com. That's Paul Stamets' organization. He's done all kinds of research with the CDC and um, other organizations. So his tinctures and such are really powerful. So Natalie says, I'm sleeping okay and I've been to the doctor. Well, like I said, maybe look at dietary things and look online to see if you can find some supplements, natural supplements that support memory, because I know there are a lot out there. Um, and cleaning up your gut and diet, like I said, can really be powerfully helpful. So I'm sorry to hear that you're having that challenge, Natalie. So I'm going to make today short because I have some other commitments that are starting at 9:30 on the dot. So, but I do want to talk about anticipation versus anxiety. And anxiety, in many ways, comes from internal conversation where we talk to ourselves about things that we get upset about, things that we don't have the ability to control, for instance, or things that we um, we're afraid of, right? So, like with this election on both sides, I think that there's probably a tendency for people to be pretty anxious about what the outcome is, because they're creating all these scenarios in their minds and creating an outcome or a future to be looking into that is an unhappy future, and that creates a whole bunch of anxiety, right? Or when we tell ourselves that we've done something wrong, or we tell ourselves that we made a mistake, or beyond making a mistake, the story that we have about the mistake, we can create all kinds of anxiety through our internal conversation. And so what's the distinction between that experience of like elevated energy in our body that we often call anxiety? What's the difference between that and anticipation? And anticipation has very similar sensations. The thing is that anticipation is like usually has positive um, a positive conversation behind it. Like there's some excitement. I'm in high anticipation of what's going to happen. There's this energy and this excitement and this nervousness. We can call it similar anyway to the nervousness of anxiety, except that it has a positive thrust to it, because the stories we're telling ourselves are um, tinged more by hope, right? Or by excitement, or um, looking forward to something rather than dreading something. And the essence of the difference is the internal interpretation and the internal dialogue, right? So the interpretation is, if we have a negative interpretation, then we're going to have anxiety as we project forward into that negative future, right? Potentially, right? I feel it in my chest. I don't know about you, but sometimes an elevated heart rate, sometimes sort of a tingling or a jitteriness in my body. And that is really, for me anyway, very, very similar to anticipation. And what we get to look at when we're experiencing these feelings is the often unconscious conversation that's running, like this tape that's playing in the background, that ends up being the soundtrack that we're responding to, right? So do you notice when you feel anxious, and Natalie, something that I would also suggest to you, by the way, about memory, you're welcome, by the way, is to start noticing when you are remembering things, and also when just being more conscious when you put things somewhere. As you're putting something down, say, I'm putting this down here, and that will help you to remember. I know that I would lose things. I would put things places and totally forget where I put them. And largely the reason for that was because I wasn't really present to what I was doing. And as I deliberately brought myself more present and was more deliberate about where I'm putting things down, for example, and being present to my activities, then my memory also was better because I was more present, I was more alert. So it's hard to remember things when we're engaged in them and then we're not fully present to them. So that's like being distracted. So actively, consciously putting our attention on things. Maybe we'll do a whole conversation one day on memory, because that's a great idea, I think, Natalie. Thank you for that. So we're talking about internal conversations. So, and how we've talked about this a whole lot of times before, how we create our physiological state and our emotional state largely through our internal conversation. And so we get to monitor that. So for instance, if you're having those of us in this country and around the world who might be having some anxiety about the outcome of this election, we can be looking at what are the conversations that we're engaging in. And it's really easy to be, whatever side you're on, or wherever you are, it's really easy to find reasons, if you're listening to the news, for anxiety and upset. And the thing that we need to do for our own well-being, we need to put on our own oxygen masks first if we're going to be any good to ourselves or anybody else. And part of that is self-care. So if you have experienced lots of anxiety, and part of the reason you're experiencing that anxiety is because you're watching the news all the time, maybe do some things that are going to take better care of yourself. Maybe give yourself a media break and maybe read a book or play some music or listen to music or do something creative. And good night, Natalie. Thank you so much for being here. And I wish you success in your memory journeys. It's always a pleasure to have you here, Natalie. Thank you. So what we want to do is be conscious of our conversation. And another thing, obviously, that we can do to move from anxiety or reduce anxiety and even anticipation, because that can be really nervous too, is to focus on our breath, take slow, deep breaths, do things like gently rub your hands together and focus on the sensation. Take a warm bath, whatever it is that feels nurturing to you, because anxiety is, well, I'm going to back up and just say it's really interesting to see how anxiety expresses itself. Anxiety in one arena can express itself in others, right? So maybe we're experiencing an anxiety around this election, for instance, and it might show up in concentrated focus or anxiety about something else. It might be displaced into something else. So it looks like it's about that thing when in actuality it isn't. I'm sure we've all been in situations where we've been upset about one thing that we were kind of avoiding addressing, and that upset then gets taken out on somebody else, when we have an explosive outburst, for instance. So yeah, what do we do to move at least from anxiety into anticipation? And one of the things is to create different conversations, to be alert to what we're saying to ourselves, and and where our focus is. You know, if we're focusing into the future, another thing that we can do to bring back our sense of presence is to stop thinking about beyond this moment. Just be in this moment. In this moment, I'm okay. In this moment, um, there's this not knowingness that can be invigorating or debilitating, and anywhere in between. And the thing that we want to do is be alert to self-care. And when you're feeling anxious, you do get to spend some extra energy nurturing yourself. I've had some moments of anxiety recently around world events, and one of the things that I actually found really powerfully helpful was to be able to just speak to the little girl inside that was freaking out and say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You're okay. Right now, right here, you're okay. And it's going to be okay. We're just going to put one foot in front of the other and, just settle into this moment and know that in this moment, you're okay. And from moment to moment to moment. So I'm hoping that that's helpful. And we are on the threshold of a new future. Whoever wins, whatever happens, it's going to be it's a different context, and with new opportunities, and no matter what. So in every moment, we get to create it anew. We get to create new opportunities for ourselves and for those around us. And uh, let's just welcome the future, however it unfolds, with a deepest sense of connection to the perfection of it, even if it doesn't look that way. Okay? So lots and lots of love to you. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I show up here every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And you are invited, as always, to engage with and enjoy the community in the Network, uh, Enlightened World Network, particularly through the Facebook page. And I hope to see you again here really soon. Lots of love and deep breaths to all of you.